What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today, I am so excited to bring you a Superflex mock draft. Now, this mock draft isn't a standard league, right? Superflex is a really nice change of pace from your standard redraft leagues. Now, if you don't know what a Superflex league is, typically it's kind of the same thing as a redraft league, but you have the added, element of a Superflex position. And what that is it's typically like a standard flex, but you have the option to play a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, or tight end, where in normal leagues, a flex is just a running back, wide receiver, tight end. So now you have the options of playing two quarterbacks in your starting lineup at once. There's not a lot of other formats that are like that in your standard league. It ain't like that. So, as you'll see heading into the draft when we start here in a minute, quarterbacks are going to fly off the board. So it's super important that we try to start off our draft with, maybe one or two if we're lucky, but at least one quarterback. I don't want to talk too much into the strategy, but I am super excited. So quickly, we'll go over the settings. So we'll check the settings here. We're going to look at a 2 QB league because that's what it is on Sleeper. But 2 QB league, the roster settings will have one quarterback, two running backs, three receivers, a tight end, a flex, and then a super flex, and then 5 bench spots. So that's what we're going with. We're going to go with the 5th spot overall, and I think we're good to get started. So I say we get right into it. Let's do it. All right, so to start off our draft, we went Christian McCaffrey, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, CeeDee Lamb, and then we are up on the board. Now, this is the hard position with Superflex, because in any other league, you'd go, yeah, man, I'll just take Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, or I'll take Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. This is where it gets dicey because you have to decide, do I want to get ahead and draft an elite quarterback? Because we already had 2 go, and by the time we come back, we're going to be probably looking at the group of quarterback where we have Justin Herbert, Brock Purdy, maybe Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, Tua, this group here. And do you really want them to be your number 1 quarterback in a league where you could start 2? I don't. And I kind of just want to see what it's like to get another elite quarterback. I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts here, simply for the fact that he gets a lot of the goal line touches. He gets the tush pushes from the 1. So I'll go Jalen Hurts here, and we'll see what it looks like on the way back for our team. As we go on here, Tyreek Hill, Lamar Jackson, CJ Stroud, and more quarterbacks are just flying off the board. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, Joe Burrow, Puka, Breece Hall, Anthony Richardson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, AJ Brown, Dak Prescott, Jahmyr Gibbs, and then we are back on the board. So we have a lot of awesome options here. If we go to everybody, we can still get seemingly an elite receiver, elite running backs here, elite tight ends. There's a lot of running backs left, but I really want to see what it looks like if we can just get 2 solid quarterbacks and then just knock out the position so I don't have to worry about it for basically the rest of the draft. So here for me, it would be between Jordan Love and Kyler Murray, and I think I'll go Jordan Love. I like Kyler Murray. His rushing upside is there, but I just don't think the passing is quite there where I think it can be with Jordan Love, where, last year he threw for 30 touchdowns. So I'm going to go with Jordan Love. I think that makes a lot of sense, and we'll see kind of what players come back to us. I doubt we can get any of the great running backs, but I still think there's a lot of talented players there, so let's do it. So we had Kyler Murray go next, Saquon Barkley, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jonathan Taylor, Marvin Harrison Jr., Brock Purdy, and it hurts my soul, but Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne probably would have been just my locked-in pick there, but sadly he got taken. So now let's look at everything overall. We do have Sam Laporta and Travis Kelce as the elite tight ends. We'll go running backs here. We have a lot of good guys here as well. Still a little couple question marks, but still guys I'd be okay with being my running back 1 with Kyren Williams, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Pacheco. I don't really like Achane that much, but we still have some good guys there. And then receivers too, we're still pretty stacked with guys that I trust. So now we kind of have to decide, how far down do I want my running back 1 to be? And I'd rather just, I would feel safe with this group of guys here, Nico Collins, Deebo Samuel, Cooper Kupp, DJ Moore, potentially being my wide receiver 1 if we can get back to it. But running back, I don't feel as confident in Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon as my ones. So I think I'm going to take a running back here. And we are playing in, I believe it's a PPR format here, so that does matter. But to me, I like Josh Jacobs. I don't care what people say. I know people are scared of him. I think Jacobs is still a good player that was on a really bad team last year. So I'm going to go Josh Jacobs in Green Bay, and I think he could just put up some big, big numbers. Next, after Josh Jacobs goes Sam Laporta, Travis Kelce back to back, the first two tight ends off the board. Kyron Williams, Caleb Williams, Derrick Henry, Justin Herbert, Tua Tagovailoa, Drake London, Jared Goff, Devontae Adams, Isaiah Pacheco, Brandon Ayuk, Mike Evans, Rashad White, and then we're back on the board. I wish Mike Evans or Ayuk or Adams, for that matter, would have fell to us to be our wide receiver ones. That would have been really nice. But this is where it's tricky because we need to decide, do we flip over to the wide receiver position, or do we solidify our running backs and grab a big upside play with Devon Achane or James Cook or Kenneth Walker, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara? I think I'll go receiver here because at this point, I'm okay with any one of these top, what is that, 6 guys here as my running back 2. And, we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spots away from getting back to our pick. So I think we could definitely get one of those guys back. So I think I want to look receiver here and really just see if I can find another or someone who I potentially think could be my wide receiver 1. I do have Michael Pittman, but he's a little bit on the safer side. With my wide receiver 1, I'd probably want to shoot for more upside. Jalen Waddle's interesting. I do love Nico Collins after his pretty solid year last year where, I'll pull it up here. 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns, finishes the wide receiver 12 in PPR leagues. So really great from him. Stephon Diggs, DJ Moore. But I think the guy I've been drafting kind of consistently is Nico Collins. So I'm going to start us off with Nico Collins as my wide receiver 1. So next off the board after Nico Collins goes Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, Trey McBride, Michael Pittman, Jaden Daniels, Trevor Lawrence, Dalton Kincaid, DK Metcalf. And we're back on the board. And see, this is what I'm saying too. This is why I think going with 2 quarterbacks early makes the most sense, because now that we got our 2 quarterbacks out of the way, all these teams have to draft either their QB1 or QB2 in rounds 2, 3, or 4. And just being straight up honestly with you, like 100%, I don't feel confident in like Team 9 right now. I like their team, but a team with Caleb Williams and they don't even have a QB2 yet. It's going to be probably Aaron Rodgers or Stafford. That's not a great QB stack to me. Where I still like my team where I have Hurts and Love, and I have 2 really great, players with Jacobs and Collins. And I still have, other options here to get, another great running back. And I think that's what I'm going to look at here. I think there are good receivers down the board that I still feel pretty confident in that will make it back to us. Running backs, I'm not as, content with. If I miss out on Kamara, Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, or James Cook, I don't feel as confident with Najee Harris, James Conner, Jonathan Brooks, that mix as my RB2. So I just want to make sure I can solidify myself and get a guy here 100%. So here's a really tough call with my running backs where I think I might pass on Joe Mixon here simply for the fact that we already have Nico Collins. And it's between James Cook, Kenneth Walker, and Alvin Kamara for me. Alvin Kamara would be the PPR play. There's something about Kenneth Walker that I've been falling in love with this year. I think he's a super talented player. I think he's really, really great. I know people are scared about Zach Charbonnet, but I really think he's special. And I think I'll go with Kenneth Walker here. I like James Cook, but I think the goal line touches just may not be there in that offense for him with Josh Allen there. So I think I'll go Kenneth Walker. It would be probably between these two if I didn't have Nico Collins, between Kenneth Walker and Joe Mixon, because Mixon's really tempting for me this year, but I'll go Kenneth Walker just to avoid having a Texans receiver and running back on the squad. Alrighty, then after Kenneth Walker went Stephon Diggs, Malik Neighbors, Mark Andrews, Deebo Samuel, Devontae Smith, Cooper Kupp, DJ Moore, Evan Ingram, Kyle Pitts, Joe Mixon, Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins, Alvin Kamara, T. Higgins, and then we're back on the clock. And here's one too that's it's very hard to pass up on a third running back. That is James Cook. If we can get James Cook at this time, that would be insane. I know we have to start 3 receivers and we only have Nico Collins, but man, passing up on Cook seems dumb to do. Like, I really like it, but I am a big Ramondre Stevenson fan, and I think Stevenson will make it back to us. So this is a really hard pick. I think I'm going to solidify just having the stud running back because none of these receivers really stand out to me. I would be okay getting Amari Cooper, Zay Flowers, George Pickens, probably not Tank Dell since we have Nico Collins, Keenan Allen, and Christian Kirk. I'd be okay with any one of those guys being my wide receiver too. So let me get James Cook here, just really solidify my running backs. And now I can pretty much take a step back and really lay off the running backs here for the rest of the draft because simply I don't think I'm going to need them. And then we came back with receiver, and we come down to two guys, Christian Kirk and Keenan Allen. And this is hard too because Keenan Allen's a little bit older. He's battled some injury a little bit. He had the groin issue last year. But Christian Kirk was also hurt last year, right? But Christian Kirk comes into this offense seemingly as the wide receiver one. I know they just drafted Brian Thomas out of LSU, but Christian Kirk has been basically a 1,000-yard receiver the past 2 years as we look here. 1,000 yards, 1,100 yards in 2022, and he missed a couple games last year, only played 12, but it was already at 800 yards. So he definitely would have been a 1,000-yard receiver last year. So I think I'm going to go Christian Kirk here, just someone that I feel kind of confident in and safe in, where I have kind of my upside with Jacobs, Cook, and Walker. I think Christian Kirk can just be a very solid wide receiver too, where I'm pretty needy at the position. So Christian Kirk to me makes a lot of sense to just solidify my wide receiver two, kind of plug and play. Don't have to worry about the guy being a boom or bust. I know he's just going to be a kind of a PPR guy. Alrighty, and then next off the board went Rodgers, Stevenson, Keenan Allen, George Kittle, Terry McLaurin, David Montgomery, Chris Godwin, Jonathan Brooks, Calvin Ridley, David Njoku, Zamir White, James Conner, Hollywood Brown, and we had Mr. Jaden Reed. Now, with receiver, this is the risk we take, and we took it, where these are pretty weak receivers. I don't feel super confident in any of these guys. We still have some running backs that I do kind of like with Tony Pollard and Javonte Williams and Jalen Warren, but I don't want to focus on running back here. Don't think we need to. We are already in the point where we got, 3 guys that are really solid. You can only start 2 of them. Technically, we can flex one. So I think we need to focus on receiver here. And one guy that I get in every single draft is Deontay Johnson, and I think I'm going to go with him here. Rashee Rice is tempting because he had a pretty good year last year, but with the suspension looming, I would rather just avoid it right now. Xavier Worthy's just a rookie. I'd rather just avoid that. Jordan Addison, like him a lot as a player, but playing with Sam Darnold or rookie J.J. McCarthy behind Justin Jefferson, I would just avoid it. Lad McConkey, that's potential, but I don't know for sure if he's going to be the starting receiver. I have no idea. Where I feel confident is just Deontay Johnson, where he's if he plays the whole season and for Pittsburgh here, he's pretty much a 1,000-yard receiver every time he plays. And I just think he's really good. Hopefully Bryce Young could just step up and be a good NFL quarterback. Year 2 with Dave Canales as their head coach. So I'm going to go Deontay Johnson and just swing for upside. Hopefully, he could be the team's number 1 receiver and just get peppered with targets. Alrighty, then on the way back, we go Xavier Worthy, Najee Harris, Jordan Addison, Baker Mayfield, Jake Ferguson, Nick Chubb, Rashee Rice, and Tony Pollard. And then we're back on the board. We could look at some tight ends here just to be, just to inspect it a little bit. We have Dallas Goedert, Dalton Schultz, TJ Hawkinson, who's still on the pup, Pat Freiermuth. I don't think I'm really willing to take any of these guys quite yet because we still need receivers, and I'd rather really focus on that and just take a swing at kind of a random tight end later in the draft. One thing we could technically look at too is quarterback. They wouldn't be a starter, but they would be a good bench piece for our team where we could always use a backup quarterback. But I think we really do need to focus on receiver here just because if we take a look at our roster here on the right, we have Jalen Hurts, Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker, Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson, no tight end, 1 flex, and 1 super flex. So we have no bench spots. We already have technically a bench receiver, which would be like James Cook at our flex, but we need another receiver. So we could go with the likes of upside play with Lad McConkey, who should be the number 1, I would assume, there for the Chargers in LA. DeAndre Hopkins, who seems like he's nearing kind of the end of the road, where last year was not an awesome year. It technically had 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns, but it just didn't really feel like it. So, decent year. Keon Coleman's a rookie. JSN, Christian Watson. So you're taking a lot of shots here on guys. I think I would take the shot maybe on Keon Coleman. Should be the number 1 for Buffalo. It looks like he doesn't have a lot of talent to beat out on that team with Curtis Samuel and what's his name? Khalil Shakir. You know, a lot of guys that I'm just not super threatened by. So I think I'll go Keon Coleman here. All right, the next off the board for us would be Will Levis, Lad McConkey, Javonte Williams, Jalen Warren, Raheem Mostert, DeAndre Hopkins, Austin Eckler, Zach Moss, Dallas Goedert, Deshaun Watson, TJ Hawkinson, and then the stretch of 3 receivers went off the board with JSN, Brian Thomas, Christian Watson, and then we're back up. Now, I would have loved if any one of these guys kind of fell to us because I really was interested in Brian Thomas, but we're here with kind of no man's land of receivers, and I would like to probably take one more before we go back to kind of just taking any position. So Romeo Doubs is interesting. He should be the wide receiver 2 or 3 in that offense. Had a pretty solid year last year with limited, routes per game. Scored 8 touchdowns. People really like him as a player, so I think I'll go Romeo Doubs here. And then we kind of just solidified our receiving core. So I mean that's kind of the thing you take. That's the issue we ran into with our team, if you want to call it an issue. Really great running backs and quarterbacks, but the receivers are a little suspect. And something potentially we could have looked at was going back to our James Cook pick. Instead of James Cook, would you have felt better? Let me know down in the comments. If we passed on James Cook and we took George Pickens, would you feel better with that? And then say we took a receiver or a running back like, somewhere in this range of Pollard, Javonte Williams, Jalen Warren as our running back 3 rather. That's something that you're going to have to debate in your drafts, whether or not you want to really focus on one position. I kind of live under the philosophy of take the best player available, not reaching for certain positions. Because right now I feel really confident in our running backs. I mean, we have 3 guys who I think can really finish as top 15 options. And I have Nico Collins, who I think can really finish as another top 15 option with 2 quarterbacks who should be top 10. So we have a lot of top 10, top 15, potential upside possibilities here. But now we look at all positions and we have some guys, not a lot of talent at the tight end position. So I'm kind of willing just to wait. If you wanted to just make sure you didn't get a guy that was like Tyler Conklin, I guess we could technically go and get Taysom Hill or Cade Otton or Cole Kmet, Luke Musgrave. We could look at running backs or receivers. No one really standing out here for me or honestly at the receiver spot. So maybe we can just go out and get, we could say Cole Kmet maybe or Luke Musgrave. Let's get Cole Kmet. He's had a couple good years and he seems to always fall under the radar. So let's just get Cole Kmet. That way we don't have an absolute 0 at tight end. None of the guys coming off the board right now are really big misses for me where I'm like, dang, I really missed out on Zeke. I don't really care that much. So I'm okay with waiting and kind of just seeing who's coming back to us. So now we have our all positions. These are all the guys that are left, and there's a lot of quarterbacks here. We could look to take maybe a 3rd quarterback, just someone we can, hopefully if, Jalen Hurts or with Jordan Love get hurt, we have another quarterback on the roster because you're not going to be able to find a lot of these guys on the waiver. I really don't like Derek Carr at all. I think Derek Carr is pretty terrible, and I don't think he will actually finish the year as the starter, just being straight up honest. I just don't see it, and I know this is contradictory, but I'm going to take the shot on Bryce Young. Bryce Young to me is just someone who was the number 1 overall pick and it had a bad rookie year. Straight up did, but there's no reason he can't grow. If he can grow into a starting quarterback of just any caliber, taking him in the 12th round in a Superflex league to me is kind of a steal. We could trade him, we could keep him, stash him, whatever the case may be. But now we have 3 quarterbacks, so I'm pretty good there for the rest of the draft. And we had 2 picks left where we could kind of just take shots. I have good running backs, so I might just split this up, 1 running back, 1 receiver. And there's a couple good guys here, but I'm really interested in Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright is really interesting to me because I don't believe in Devon Achane at all this year. He's not a guy I'm going to have on any single team. I will pass him every time. Raheem Mostert is old. I believe he's 32 or 33 this year, and the Miami Dolphins traded up to get Jalen Wright. They traded a 2024 3rd round pick to trade up to the 4th round to get Jalen Wright. So I think they, saw something in the guy. So maybe just take the shot on him and hope for the best. Maybe injuries, maybe he just jumps the depth chart. But Jalen Wright's someone that we could take, and then if it doesn't work out for the first 3 weeks, we just cut him. We cut him. It's the end of the round or end of the draft, so you just take a swing and hope for the best. All right, and then we're back up. And we have a couple guys that are very interesting. Roman Wilson could easily battle for the number 2 receiver there in Pittsburgh. People really like Dontavian Wicks in Green Bay. Now, we already do have Romeo Doubs, but, I don't think there's anything wrong with, at this point, taking 2 Green Bay receivers and seeing if one of them emerges as the wide receiver 2 or 3. Adam Thielen, I'll pass on with. That's technically the same thing where we can maybe do that with Deontay Johnson, see which one emerges. But Jermaine Burton, Demario Douglas, Malachi Corley. There's a lot of talented guys here, but I think I'll just take the shot on Dontavian Wicks because people think he's really talented. And hey, if I can get him or Dobbs as the wide receiver 2 or 3 on that team, I can cut the other one. And now I have a starting receiver that can play pretty much week in and week out. And all right, this is the squad. Now I'll blow it up. We did Jalen Hurts, Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker, Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson, Cole Kmet, James Cook, Jordan Love at our Superflex, bench of Keon Coleman, Romeo Doubs, Bryce Young, Jalen Wright, and Dontavian Wicks. I think that's a pretty solid team. Like I said earlier, the toughest spot in the draft for me is right here in this stretch, rounds 1 through 4, because you have to really decide what you want to do. Do you want to take one quarterback and then draft someone later like a Cousins, a Stafford in the 6th or 7th round and hope those guys can stay healthy and be, really fantasy productive? Or do you want to, like I did, just rip the Band-Aid off and go Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, and then you don't have to worry about quarterback until basically the end of your draft. You don't have to wait until the end, or you have to wait till the end because why would you take someone else to be your bench quarterback? And then you could just focus on stacking up running backs and receivers and tight ends. There's a lot of strategies involved. We kind of went with the 2 early quarterback strategy, and I really like the way it paid off. Maybe I went a little too running back heavy here where, even if I didn't take Kenneth Walker, I could have stacked up with Nico Collins and Deebo Samuel and then came back and had James Cook as my running back too. Maybe my team looks a little bit better then, but at the end of the day, I still think this is a killer squad. I think this is a really, really tough team. I dig it, man. I dig it. But all right, that was my first ever Superflex mock draft on the channel. If you liked the video, leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more content. There'll be plenty coming over August, as it's August 1st right now. We're in fantasy season. I mean, this is when podcasts and content are just getting thrown at you. So if you liked the video, leave a like, stay tuned to the channel, subscribe for more, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you. I appreciate it.